So we need to start this next unit by talking about numbers. Because numbers, we've used many already. We've used charges, we've used subscripts. We're going to add another one today. And we need to make sure that we understand what each of our numbers mean. So we already know these little tiny numbers, the 3 and the 4 and the 2. Those are subscripts. They are small numbers at the bottom. Okay, the subscript tells how many of just that atom that you have. How many oxygens? How many phosphorus? How many magnesium? Okay, now if it's outside the parentheses like that little 2 is, you're going to multiply by everything inside the parentheses. So if it is outside the parentheses, you multiply by everything inside the parentheses. So for example, we have parentheses PO4, parentheses 2. So we're going to multiply 4 oxygens in the middle times 2 would be 8 oxygens. 1 phosphorus inside times 2 would be 2 phosphorus. Okay? And then of course we have that 3 next to magnesium, so that would be 3 magnesium. However, we also have what is called a coefficient. The coefficient is this big number in front. Okay, that 4 in front. And it multiplies the entire compound. So I've got a 4 in front of the Mg3PO4, so I take all these numbers that I just did and I would multiply them all by that 4 coefficient in front. Okay? So here's what we're going to do on this worksheet. We're going to figure out how many of each element we would have. Then I'm going to draw pictures of what that looks like. Okay? So I'm going to zoom this in a bit. There we go. So we have 4AuClO33. That's our first one. So let's do this. All right. So starting with that 4, or with the inside the parentheses, let's start there. We have 1 chlorine times 3 would be 3 chlorines, times the 4 in front would be 12 chlorines. Okay? Then we have 3 oxygen times 3 would be 9, times 4 would be 37. Nope, 36. Just kidding. 36 oxygen. And then gold, we have just the 1 because it's outside the parentheses, so that 3 doesn't apply to it, times the 4. That gives us 4 gold. Okay? So now this would be gold 3. Oh, I'm going to run out of room. Chlorate. Now, let's draw this real quick. I'm going to draw it big. I want you to draw it small so that it fits in your space. So you're going to draw it so that it fits in this little space right here. I'm going to draw it huge because I've got a big fat finger and an iPad screen. All right, so we have AU in the middle, and then we have 3 groups of Cl3 attached to it. So it's attached to a ClO3, and then another ClO3, and then another ClO3. Okay, so that's the compound. And then the 4 in front of it means that we would have 4 of those. Okay. So let's zoom this back in. Let's do one more together, and then I'm going to let you do the rest of them on your own. All right, so here we've got, let's start inside the parentheses again. We've got 1 silicon times 2 would be 2, times the 5 in front would be 10 silicon. Still inside the parentheses, we have 3 oxygen, times 2 would be 6, times 5 would be 30. And then the aluminum, we have 2 times 5 would be 10. And this would be aluminum silicate. Now, if you're having trouble with the names, remember you've got those flow charts that we made, so make sure you use that flow chart in order to do that part, if you're struggling with the naming part. Okay, so for this one, we have 2 aluminums, and we have 2 silicates, which is SiO3. Okay, and there are 5 of those, so we would do that times 5. Now, if you're paying any attention, you notice that that formula is wrong. This should actually be 3 silicates, because aluminum's charge is 3 plus. So when you crisscross, it shouldn't be 2 and 2, it should be 2 and 3. I know I said let's do one more, but that one had an error in it, so let's do one last one. That's right. Okay, so let's do this one. We have no parentheses this time, so we're just going to count. 2 copper times 6 is going to be 12 copper. 1 sulfur times 6 is going to be 6 sulfur. 4 oxygens times 6 is, that's cute, is going to be 24. And this would be copper 1 sulfate. Okay? So now let's draw this guy. So we have 2 coppers. Oops, copper. And then we have 1 sulfate. Okay? And then of that molecule, there are 6. Okay? So you're going to keep doing that. I want you to draw what each one would be, as well as telling me the number of each atom and then the name of the compound. On the back, you have more to do as well.